tech roles in fintech or technology of blockchain being used in fintech? What exactly do you mean? So technology of blockchain being used in, yeah, that's a good point. So as of right now, I would say one of the top areas that I see that happening is cross-border payments. So global payments where it's being used. And then there are lots of platforms using it also for invoice discounting. So, okay, we are live on social. So let me just start the session. So hi and welcome everyone. In this session, what we're going to do today is to see how to set up our own blockchain. Now, obviously, as you remember, to set up a blockchain, we first need a node. So usually the first node that we create on which we will start a blockchain, we call that as a seed node. Now, where can the seed node be? It could be your laptop or it could be a cloud server. Now, there are lots of famous platforms for cloud services like Amazon, there's IBM, there's Azure, there's Google Cloud. I usually prefer to use something called DigitalOcean, but you're free to use whatever you want. So let me share my screen and I'll first create a node, a virtual server, and then we'll set up our own blockchain on that. So I'm going to be sharing my screen. Do let me know if you are able to see my screen. There should be something called blockchain developer course written. Awesome. So now what we're going to do is we are going to set up a cloud server. So I'll use this create button here and you see a whole bunch of things that I can create, or I can simply go here. So we'll just start. This is simple. So in DigitalOcean, every server that you create, a virtual server, is called a droplet. So once we click on that, okay. So now we are going to create a droplet. Now the first question that we need to figure out is what operating system should be on it. So now this depends upon which blockchain you're setting up. And then each blockchain would give you a list of which are the different operating systems that it supports. Now most of the mature blockchains will support Windows, Linux and Mac, but you have to check that carefully. Now we are going to use a framework called multi-chain and that runs pretty well on Ubuntu. So I can run an older version, 18.04, 20.04 or 22.04. These are the three options. Ideally, I would take the latest one. But again, it depends on what all is supported. So I'm taking the default option here. Then I have to decide on what kind of a plan I want. So depending upon our use case, we would decide to go for a CPU optimized node, which means if it is going to do more processing, or memory optimized if there is going to be larger need for memory storage, or storage optimized. So in our case, it's a very basic blockchain. I'll leave the default on. Now after that, I can decide whether I want to use a regular SSD, a premium Intel or a premium AMD. Now again, we can see the cost go up. Blockchains are very low on what they need as a resource. So let's just go with the absolute cheapest. So here in that, I can see it starts with something like a $4 machine. Now this is $4 a month. So you can understand how cheap it is to actually run a blockchain node of your own. Of course, in certain blockchains where, let's say for Ethereum, it may not work with such a basic thing. You may need actually terabytes of storage. So then the cost goes up. We are doing our own blockchain. So we're starting with the absolute basic configuration. Now we can have an option to add more block storage. So that means as the need for data storage increases, we can add external data storage. As of right now, we don't need it. So I'm going to ignore that. Now, here is an interesting option where it asks you to select which data center you want to run the node in. Now, by default, it's New York, but depending upon, where, if it's a proper production chain, you may want to run it on a data center physically closest to where your web applications are going to be. So as of right now, again, not relevant for us. So I'm taking New York as the base. Now, there are two things here for authentication. One is called an SSH key and the other is simple password. Now, logically, we would always use SSH keys, but again, this is your first look at it. So let's just go with a password. So we can just put some kind of a complex password. Do not put a simple password, even if it is for trial, because then a bot may end up hacking your server and then you'll suddenly have huge number of transactions running and your server may actually go down. So just put a complicated looking password. Now we have other options. I'm ignoring them for right now. And this is the final one. How many droplets we want to create or how many servers? So one is enough for us. So we can just do that. And then we need to say, what is the name of this? So this is the host name, not the name of the blockchain. But when we create more and more servers, we sometimes get confused. So to make it simple, I'll just say it is going to be ROAS seed node. So I'm going to create a blockchain with my name, and this is going to be the first node, so we call it a seed node. And then I click on create droplet. Any questions? Can we have a recording of this video? Yeah, don't worry, all my videos automatically get recorded, and after the session is over, you can go to YouTube and see it. It's on my YouTube channel. So now it is setting up the node. So it takes a little bit of time, not too much. If you guys have questions, just post them. Okay, it's almost done. On which platform you're creating? So I'm using something called DigitalOcean, but you could do, you could set up the blockchain on your laptop also. But this is the first part where a node is being set up on DigitalOcean. Now it shows an IP address. So now that our node is up and running, how do we connect to it? So for that, we need an IP address. So that has been given to us 165.227.87.152. Now our role here at DigitalOcean is more or less done. And what we are going to do is we are now going to log in and create our blockchain. So let me just change what I'm sharing. Okay. Give me a second. Yeah. Now you should be able to see my terminal screen. It's blue in color. Let me know if you can see that. Nishant has asked, are we going to code anything? Well, we are going to type in a little bit of code. No, there's no drag and drop available, right? So now what we're going to do, first step, is we are going to log into this server that we have just set up. So I'm doing SSH, secure shell, root. Obviously, in a production environment, we would never use the root account. We would create a new user account with limited privileges, but it's just your first lesson. So I'm going with the root account. Then I put the IP address and I do enter. So now it asks me, this is the ECDSA, you may recall, elliptical curve digital signature algorithm. Using that, this is the fingerprint of this thing, and this is the SHA. That's the reason we just want to show this to us. It actually makes no sense. So we can just simply say yes and go with it. So now it has added this particular signature and fingerprint to my laptop. So now I cannot reuse this IP address for any other server, but again, ignore that for now. Let's put in the password that we had put. Now, as you know, when you use this command screen here on Linux and Mac, it will not show you the password, not even the stars. If the password is correct, it straight away logs you in. So we can see we are logged in to the ROAS-seed-node. We are logged in as a root user. Is it clear? Any questions? So if some of you are really new to the command line, you may find a little difficulty. In Windows, we usually call it, okay, I've forgotten what you call it in Windows, but in Mac, you just simply go to the terminal, and then you can open up the screen. If there are any questions, please keep putting them there. Okay, Keshav has answered, yeah. So in Windows, please use CMD. Tushar's question is, how are you on your system on digital? No, so there are two things here. In DigitalOcean, we went to the web service there and we created the node and they gave us the IP address. Now I'm using my terminal to connect to that server which is somewhere else in the world. So somewhere in the New York data center of DigitalOcean, there is a server which has been created for me on a virtual machine, and that server has an IP address 165.227.87.152. I have now connected to that using my password, and I have logged into this server, which I had given the name ROAS seed node. I hope it's clear for you guys. Now that we are logged in, let's start to set up our blockchain. So the first step, now these instructions are available on the site of Multi-Chain Framework. I'm just directly showing it to you. So the first step is we've done a change directory and gone into our temp directory. Now we are going to get the software files. So I'm doing a wget and then I'm putting the URL. You can see the URL is multichain.com/download/multichain 2.3 tar.gz. So this is all data from their site. I hit enter. Now what has it done? It has brought this data and put it onto my virtual machine. Please remember, this is not happening on my local system. I am using my local system to connect to the virtual server, but the data of the software right now has gone to my server, not on my laptop. Hope that's clear to all of you. Then I am going to unzip or extract this. So that's happened and a bunch of files has been now extracted. We can see them here. Various utility files, there's a readme text file, all that data has now come in. There's also something called multi-chain cold. So later we'll see the concept of cold nodes. That time we'll understand what that means. Now that we've done it, we are going to go into another directory, which is called multichain 2.3. So as you can see right now, we are working on multichain 2.3. Maybe in future, we can reuse this same virtual machine to run another multichain, which may be 2.4. So that's why we go into a folder with that particular name. Now that we are in that folder, let's move some of the files around. Again, don't worry if you don't understand some of this. This is provided to you on their side. You just have to do a copy paste. Now comes the most important command. Multichain -util create ROHAS. What is ROHAS? That is going to be the name of our blockchain. We can't change it later. So we can call it, when you set up your own blockchain, you can call it whatever you feel like. I've called it ROHAS just to make it simple. So I hit enter. Now it says that the blockchain parameter set has been generated. But to generate the blockchain, I have to run this command which they have mentioned here. So I can simply copy that command here and I can now run it here. Now the moment I do that, the blockchain has been set up. Now you realize it's already done. It happened really, really fast. That's all the time it takes. So we'll just go through what all has happened. So first step here, you can see that we have done the community edition latest protocol. Now it says starting up the node, looking for Genesis block. It finds the Genesis block. You may remember Genesis block is the first block of the blockchain. Then other nodes can connect to this using this particular command. Now this is something very important. What I am doing right now is setting up my own blockchain. So I am the seed node. I have created the Genesis block. Now, if you want to come and connect to my blockchain, you will have to send a request using this. So you will set up your own node. You will follow those first few lines the way I did. But after that, you will not create a new blockchain called ROHAS. You will run this multi-chain IND ROHAS at this IP address and this port number. So I need you all to understand it. So I'll repeat it later if required. But what you are going to do is you will be connecting to the ROHAS blockchain, the seed node of which is running on this particular IP address on this particular node. So when we set a multi-chain, it decides which node to use. That's part of the parameters. And once you do that on your system, it'll tell you how you can actually connect to my blockchain. For right now, I'm not doing that. It says node ready. And now we can actually start running some commands to see what all our blockchain is doing. There's a question, is a hash created for this block at this stage? Yes, we are going to see all that. Now what I will do is, we will run something called multi-chain CLI. CLI means command line interface. So every time when I'm running the commands, I can directly run the command because it has gone into something called interactive mode. So now I'm logged into ROHAS blockchain and let me run the first command. I'm going to see what are the parameters of my blockchain. So I say get blockchain params. So here it shows us all the parameters. So the chain protocol that we are running is multi-chain. Now multi-chain allows us to run Bitcoin also. So at the early stage, if I had changed the parameters, I would have created a Bitcoin blockchain, but I'm creating a multi-chain blockchain. It is called multi-chain ROHAS. And now here I want to show you the target block time. So you remember we spoke about block time in Bitcoin. Anyone remembers how much that was? Or Ethereum? Do you remember any of those block times? How much was? Yeah, 10 minutes. Keshav, you're right. So Bitcoin used to be 10 minutes. Here it's 15 seconds. Of course, we can change it and do whatever we want. Right now, I'm doing it's 15 seconds. That's the default. We can change our block size if we want. You remember I told you about the ports. So by default, multi-chain sets 2 ports for us. Network port is 6745. RPC port is 6744. So all the RPC commands that we are running, for the API commands, which I will show you in some time, they are going to run on the RPC port, remote procedure call, which is 6744. Now, those of you who are very new to Linux command line and all, you can just Google some of these. A little bit of basics of Linux networking is essential for a blockchain setup. So just go through that. Now there's something interesting here. What we are setting up is called a permissioned blockchain. So there are different kinds of permissions that we can set up. So anyone can connect is false. If it was true, it would become a permissionless blockchain. Anybody could connect. But we are keeping permissions restricted. So nobody else can connect till we allow. Nobody can send assets till we allow. Nobody can create assets. Nobody can issue. So now these are the parameters that we can customize. Depending upon the use case, we can customize a whole number of parameters depending on what we are trying to do. So, who all should get what permission? There are 8 different permissions we can customize. That's something we are going to see later. The rest of it, most of it, we can kind of ignore. You remember that reward halving that happens in Bitcoin? Can someone tell me in Bitcoin, the reward that you get for a new block, how much you earn? What was the time period in which that reward becomes half? 4 years. Yes, Preeti, you're absolutely right. Now here we can set that in seconds, but it is not relevant here because we are not actually using that kind of a system. We are using something called round robin proof of work. So you can ignore it, but I'll just show it to you. So there's a whole bunch of options. Okay, we can ignore most of them for now. But you remember the nonce? The Genesis nonce is 203. And this is the Genesis public key hash and the hash of the Genesis block. So you'll recall a lot of this data. Now let's go and see some more parameters. Okay. So now I run another command which is called get runtime parameters. So these are parameters which we can change on runtime also. There's one that I want to show you, which is, give me a second. I'll run another one called get info. Now you remember burn address. You remember when we were talking about blockchain basics, we spoke about burning cryptos, and I told you that Binance regularly burns cryptos. Do you guys remember that? A quick yes if you can recall. So yeah, awesome. So a burn address is generated by the blockchain, and the beauty of it is it does not have a known private key. So anyone who sends crypto to this burn address effectively has burnt the crypto. But remember, in blockchain, we can never delete anything. Blockchain is an append-only database where we keep adding data. So how do you actually burn crypto? We can't burn the crypto. Someone says we lost you. Was I not visible and audible during the first 5 to 7 minutes? Okay, it was audible and visible to everyone. So maybe what you can do, Abhishek, later go through the recording. You'll be able to see that. For some people, if it wasn't there, you could just look at it. So we can't delete a crypto. So the only way we burn it is we send it to this address. And nobody has the private key, so it is presumed that the crypto is burnt and unusable. Is the concept clear? So the burn address is created by the blockchain itself. So when the blockchain is set up, it by default creates a burn address. Now you remember this difficulty level. So that also is visible to us here. That's more or less what I wanted to show you here. It's pretty simple. All the different things are set up. Somebody's asked a question, what is the difference between RPC and network ports? So, okay, RPC is where we are going to run the APIs, the remote procedure call APIs. I'm going to show that to you in just a minute. Give me 1 second. I'll just share my screen. And show you guys what we mean by it. Okay. Okay, let me know if you can see something called accessing the API. Okay, awesome. So now what we're going to see is we are going to see a whole bunch of these APIs. So first category is called general utilities. So you remember we started with something called get blockchain params. So it shows us the blockchain parameters. So and here it describes what each command does. This is not available to us. That's in the enterprise version. Get runtime params we already saw. Then we can even set some parameters. So as you know, in a blockchain, Runtime parameters can be changed later. Core blockchain parameters cannot. So if you want to set some, we will use this command. We saw get info to see the burn address. So you see the burn address is also described here. And we can even see help, and we can do stop. If we do stop, the blockchain will stop running. At least that one single node will stop running. But if there are other nodes running, the blockchain will continue to run, which is why when Solana goes down, we get apprehensive that why is it the entire blockchain is down? Because a running blockchain is supposed to have many nodes, decentralized, run by different people. If the entire blockchain goes down, it is not centralized enough. Right now, we have one single node, so if we press stop, the blockchain will stop. Okay, we have another question here. Do we have burnable address for Bitcoin also? Yeah, I'm sure there is a burnable address for it. I mean, let me just look it up. Give me a second. That's a good question. Bitcoin burn address. Yeah, there seems to be some address that people have provided, but I don't know if it is a real burn address. It may be their address, and anybody who sends it there, they take it. So I don't know for sure, but on the internet, I'm able to find some examples of it. But I'm not 100% sure whether it has it. But logically, it should. But Bitcoin being the first ever blockchain, at that time, what were the parameters that were set? I'm not 100% sure. So I'm not sure whether it does or doesn't have it. Anyone else? We don't have access to burn crypto. To explain what you mean by that question. So like this, now we see under API, there are hundreds of API calls which you can do, and one by one you are going to do all, because as your homework, what I'm going to tell all of you guys to do is you are going to set up your own blockchain. Now in the chat, I'm going to put a link for, so you can see the link. It's on for DigitalOcean. Now I created this some time ago. Hopefully when you set up an account through this, they will give you $100 free hosting. If they give it to you, that's amazing. If they don't give it to you, it's not my fault. They said they will. So you can use that link to create a DigitalOcean account. Then you will set up your own node. And then on your node, you are going to set up a blockchain. And I am going to post some of the commands for you guys to copy. So just give me a second. First thing that you're going to do after having created your DigitalOcean node is, in your chat, if you see right now, I put in something called SSH root at, and then there's an IP address. You are going to enter that, and then you are going to put the IP address. After that, you're going to enter your password, and then you're going to run a bunch of commands, which I'm again going to paste for you guys here. I'll also put it up on my, oh, you know what? It's better I put it up on the LinkedIn group because it's getting a little jumbled up here. But you are going to run those 4-5 commands that I ran and showed you. And then that is going to create a blockchain with whatever name you want it to be. And once you have created your own blockchain, in fact, let me just share my screen and show it to you. Give me 1 second. Yeah. So I hope you guys can see a bunch of commands on my screen right now. Just give me a quick yes. Awesome. So you're going to do this cd/dem, the wget, you're going to get unzip it, you're going to do all these commands. Just remember at this stage, instead of ROHS, you would write whatever is the name of the blockchain that you want. If you have changed the name, then you will change the name here also, and you will change the name here also. But after you finish running all these commands, your blockchain is set up. It is going to be running. Then you can use this get blockchain params, get runtime, or even get info. So you could run these 3 and have a look at it. Now, suppose you want a second node to connect to you. Then what you will do is you will set up another blockchain using another node using DigitalOcean. You will run these commands till here. You will not run the last 3. After you run these, you will directly run a command, which is this one, multi-chain IND, and then here, whatever is the name of the new blockchain that you have set up and whatever IP address it shows you, you will run that. And then you will go to the main seed node and you will run one of these, whether you want what kind of command. But if you find that difficult, please don't do it right now. I'm going to show you a demo of that in the next session. So you can kind of stop till this level. But of course, I want you to then, once you run these commands, I want you to go and understand each option, what it means. So you could just simply do a Google for each of the options and you will get your answers. Let me just quickly go back to the node. So let me share my screen again. Okay. So every time you run commands, you will see a whole bunch of things. I want you to actually Google each thing. Some you will remember, like you remember what difficulty is. That's simple. So, sorry, let me just run another one. Get blockchain param. So when you run this, if you want, you can go online and look for each and every command, what it means. So what is the meaning of max block size? What is max chunk size? So whatever you want to learn, you can just Google them. You will easily get it. I mean, I don't want to go through each of them. It will take a really long time. It's easily available on the multi-chain side. And this way, you'll understand how simple it is to create a blockchain, and you'll understand how to query a blockchain and do the initial commands. What protocol is used? So, well, that's a good question. Uh, actually a difficult thing for me to answer like that. There are various ways in which we connect. We can use HTTPS also, but that is something I wouldn't want to answer now. Let's go deeper in, and maybe in the second or third session, we'll go into what are the kind of protocols that are used at the back end and how we connect different blockchain nodes to each other. Any other questions? So let's just scroll up. It's fairly simple. We had run these simple bunch of commands here, and then we created our blockchain. Yeah, so you see this. This is a very important thing. Once you have created your own blockchain, anybody else in the world who wants to connect to it, you need to send them this. You need to tell them, after running those first 4 lines, please run this command. Multichain IND rohasat, and then this particular IP address colon this particular port number. And when they run this on their computer, something will be generated which they can email to you. That's kind of a code. And then you will run something on your machine and they will automatically get connected. So don't worry about that. What we are going to do in the next session is, before the next session, I want each of you to have a node running. I will put the commands on the LinkedIn group. And then in the class, we will go live. And at that time, I want all of you to connect to me. So then it will be very simple. Practically, you will understand how to actually do it. Any questions? I hope you guys can hear me. A quick yes, no would help. Awesome. Better create a Telegram group. Okay, Sai, that's a good question. Would you guys want me to create a Telegram group for the coordination and these instructions? Are all of you guys on Telegram? Okay, sure, I'll do that. Let me set up a Telegram group. Okay, so I'll set up this Telegram group, and then I'll immediately put the link for that. Okay, let me set it up right now if possible. Can we burn the crypto of another blockchain like BNB? So what you will have to do is, each blockchain will have its own burn address. So you will have to use that. The burn address of one blockchain wouldn't work on another one. Other questions? In the meanwhile, I'll try to set up the group. Give me a minute. Okay, I'll set it up in some time because, okay, I found it. New group. Give me a second. It's called blockchain developer course. Just give me a second. Okay, I've created it. I will just share it with you guys. Okay, Shinam, I have added you. Can you just put the link on the chat here so everyone can join that group? Shinam, I have added you as the person on that group, so you can just share it with everyone. Okay, what are the other questions? Okay, so now let me just come back live here. I'll stop sharing. I hope you guys can see me. Okay. So today I want to keep the lecture short because it may be confusing for some of you. So what we've done is we created a node. on a service provider called DigitalOcean. You can set it up on your laptop also. The only reason I don't recommend that, because when you're at this experimental phase, you'll unnecessarily slow to set it up on your local machine, right? It can be set up on Windows, Linux, or Mac. So we set up a virtual machine, then we logged into that and we downloaded all the relevant software from Multichain and we set up our own blockchain. And then we engaged with that node. We did a few preliminary commands. Expensive crypto. So yes, if you want, you can burn it, but do you realize the cost of it? That crypto is gone. So each BNB is hundreds of dollars. You just lose that. But yes, you can do it. So it's not just BNB who uses it. Any project which is created on Binance chain, they use this address to burn tokens. So yes, you're free to use that. Any other questions? Why do we need to burn tokens? We want them to be created more. No, it depends, Anupama. So why Binance burns it is that in their original white paper, they said that we are going to start with 200 million and then over a period of time, we are going to regularly burn till there are only 100 million left. So that is why they are able to maintain their price. So if you are familiar with how the stock market works, you have a concept there called buyback of shares, where a company can buy its own shares back and destroy them, reducing the supply, increasing the price. So that is the reason even in crypto, we sometimes burn the cryptos to increase the price. Right. I hope that answers your question. Alok says he missed the lecture. Don't worry, it's streamed on YouTube. So after the session is over, you can go there and watch it. Any other questions? Shino, have you been able to find the address of that group of Telegram? So you can just paste it in the chat here. You're not able to do that? Okay, no problem. I'll post it. Okay, I can see Keshav has joined it. So Keshav, can you post the link? Goti's question is, in stocks, we can get the physical documents, but in crypto, no. So in the world of crypto, there is no document. Everything is electronic. So the only proof is in your wallets or in the explorers. Okay. Okay, Keshav is saving the this thing. Vishesh says, I have just sent another burn address link above. How can we identify the real burn address? Well, maybe they have multiple then. I don't know. I just Googled it and that was the first one that came up. All right. Does DigitalOcean charge us at any point? Yeah, good question. So if you get the $100 free credit, then you use up the $100. Otherwise, yes, you pay $5 a month for the node, but that's full month. You don't have to keep it for a month. So you can set up your node just a few hours before the next class and they usually don't charge you for a few hours. But after that it does, but it's very cheap. And anyway, since you guys are learning blockchain, I would recommend get comfortable with one cloud service provider. Ideally, in when you go for a job, they would not be using DigitalOcean. Most of them would use AWS. Some would use Azure or some would use GCP, Google. So I would recommend to all of you pick one cloud and start getting comfortable with it. That's a skill all of you should have. So if you look at the posts I made about skills of Web3 developers, cloud is an important skill that you should have. So I would say, maybe start with Amazon or something and get comfortable. Shinam says only owner can share. Okay, just give me a second. I'm also not very comfortable with Telegram, so let me figure out how to do this. Can someone tell me how I can find the link? Okay, I'm not able to figure out how to get it. So I've created a Telegram group. How do I get the link to share with all of you? I'm confused about that. Anyone has an idea how I could do that? No. I got the link. I got it. Shino, I'm sending it to you on WhatsApp. Can you just paste it here? Yeah. Shino, I've sent it to you. Thanks, Alok. I got it. So Shino will just put it here. All of you can join the Telegram group and we can use that to stay connected about all the session. Maruti's question is blockchain domains will be useful. So I am presuming you're talking about ENS, Ethereum name service. Yeah, so just like we have .com in the world of ENS, we have other ones like .eth and all. So yeah, I mean, it depends. Like as of right now, most people don't use it because it doesn't run in your normal Chrome. You need to do something special to run those. I don't know if it'll pick up or not. I tried to book my own name, but then somebody had already booked my name. So I felt a little sad, but I couldn't book it. But I don't know, it depends. If you feel that more and more people will use it in future, sure, you can go for it. Has anyone here booked it? Their own .eth or other kind of domain name? Yeah, sure. Vishesh, you can share the link. Nobody else has booked? Okay. Abhay has asked about future scope of Polkadot. Yeah, that's a good question. So in my Insta live earlier today on DeFi, also someone asked this question. So Vishesh, you put my personal address. I made a special group. So Shinam, can you share it of the group for blockchain? Yeah. So I think what Shinam has just put, that's the one you guys could start with. I mean, you can join my group also, but then I put a lot of other things also. So yeah, Shinam has put the link. All of you feel free to join there. So Polkadot, the problem that I'm seeing is if you look in terms of the TVL or the total value locked, it's at 140. The rank of Polkadot is 140. So it's obviously not really picked up for DeFi yet. I'm not sure if it is going to. I'm a little apprehensive, so I'm not too bullish on it. Yeah. Can I access the video session later? Yeah, you can. It's on my YouTube. Isn't cloud a centralized storage? Yeah, that's a very good question. As of today, almost all the nodes which are running of all the blockchains are running on centralized cloud. So I would say a huge number run on AWS, and yes, that is centralized. See, because where else are you going to run the nodes? So there are decentralized platforms like Filecoin. Sia is another one. Sia Coin, that's another platform. But in my experience, almost everybody runs it on AWS. I personally prefer DigitalOcean. Isn't cloud centralized? So yeah, so like I just answered, it is. Then how can we say that blockchain is decentralized? See, if enough number of people are running your nodes and they are different people, not the same entity, then you can say your blockchain is decentralized. It doesn't really matter where the node runs. Whether you run the node on your own laptop or on AWS, that doesn't make so much of a difference. And I'll be very honest with you, blockchains are not very decentralized. That is just the narrative put into our heads. But do you know that the miners, the top 5 mining pools control more than 50% of Bitcoin? Same for Ethereum. So no, if you look at the top blockchains, Tether is completely centralized. Bitcoin and Ethereum are highly centralized. So no, they are not really decentralized. That's just media. Reality is very different from that. We like to say blockchains are decentralized, they're not. Any other questions? Yeah, Abhay, you agree? That's the way it is. I mean, we've got to realize that blockchain has some advantage. Like I'll give you a simple example. We've just set up a permission blockchain. Now, if 100 of us want to do different use cases and create assets, any of us can take a node, connect it, and get all the data. And then our private key is on our node. So it brings a lot of these benefits. A lot of the things are with you. But overall, it is not decentralized in the true spirit. Because I'll ask you a question. If Bitcoin was to be truly decentralized, who will upgrade the code? Who will upgrade it to the GitHub repository? And I will tell you Bitcoin's biggest flaw or single point of bringing Bitcoin down can be if somebody gets access to the keys to change the Bitcoin core repository on GitHub. You would actually inject some kind of flaw into that code and you could really bring down Bitcoin to a large level. It is a very small number of people who can push code updates to Bitcoin's core. And that is your biggest point of vulnerability. The single point of failure could be the GitHub code actually. I hope that's clear what I'm trying to say. You guys familiar with what GitHub is? Are you guys familiar with GitHub or should we do a session on that? So if Amazon shut down, will all the nodes are down? Yeah, that happens. So in fact, if Amazon tomorrow decides not to allow nodes to run, a lot of the blockchain nodes will actually go down. So yes, that could happen. That is a problem. So anyway, I'm presuming since most of you said yes, you know what GitHub is. So Git is a protocol on Linux, and GitHub is a website which allows you to store your code and share it with the world. So almost all the popular open source products of the world, their project, the code runs on GitHub. Yeah. So GitHub, for Bitcoin Core, there is a GitHub. In fact, why don't I just show it to you? Give me a second. Let me share my screen. Okay. If you can see my screen. So here. Okay, so here you can see this is the Bitcoin core repository. Can you see all this in front of you? Anupama says we need a session on GitHub. Okay, so I'll post a question on the Telegram group. If a lot of you want it, we'll do a session on GitHub also, don't worry. Now, can you see the code on my screen? A quick yes. Okay, so now if you look at this, my question to you is, who is updating Bitcoin core code here? So if you see, it says Bitcoin core, what is it? So if you read on my screen, so Bitcoin core connects the Bitcoin peer-to-peer network to download and fully validate blocks and transactions. It also includes a wallet and graphical user interface. Now this is the biggest point of which could be hacked, that the few people in the world who can actually update the code here, if they get compromised, the entire Bitcoin network could be poisoned. And that's just the way it is. Because how can you ever have an open source project where everybody in the world can contribute? Because that makes it so easy for the hacker to come and put bad code in. So there is no concept of a truly decentralized project. There is always going to be some people who are going to run it. Nitin's question is, how are those people chosen? Yeah, that's a good question. So in fact, I'll just show it to you. Who all can update Bitcoin core? So there is a small bunch of people. I had researched on them once upon a time. So here, this is the article, and it probably even shows you the names of those people. At least at one time it did. Let's open up. Let's see if it shows. So I did find the list, one of the places. Okay, so here they've kind of explained how the system works, but they've not put the names of the people. But in one of the other sites, it did have the list. I'll try to find it and share it with you guys later. I'll find it and definitely share it with you guys. See, there is always going to be a set of developers, right? So, one second. So in fact, when we spoke about, okay, like right now, let's look at what's happening to Ethereum. What is going to happen in the Ethereum merge? The Ethereum is going to, the mainnet and the beacon chain are going to merge. So my question to you is, who has written the code for beacon? We don't know. Then who is going to actually push this code which will merge the two? I don't know. If you go to the Ethereum website, right, who runs Ethereum? Ethereum Foundation. And you're going to be pretty surprised, but it only lists three people, if I'm not mistaken, right? So those three people are the ones who, in some way, we could say they are the ones controlling it. Are you aware of who are the people who control Ethereum, or the Ethereum Foundation rather? Any guesses? Okay, Vitalik is one. Who are the others? Let me show it to you. It's pretty interesting. One second. Yeah, these are the three people. And I'm 100% sure you've not heard of 1 and 3. You only heard of Vitalik. So can you see, these are the three co-founders. There's Aya Miyaguchi, there's Vitalik, and there's Patrick. Okay, that's a tough name for me. I can't pronounce it. These are the three guys, right? So for people who think Ethereum is highly decentralized, well, these are the three guys who run the executive board of the Ethereum Foundation. And then, I don't know, there is a small bunch of people who actually write the code. So yeah, that's how decentralization works. But that's the way it has to be, right? We cannot have thousands of people running code or writing code. So it's a small team which actually does that. Is that clear? Any questions? A quick yes. Are these Bitcore guys same as, I don't know really, Abhishek, who those people are. I mean, I had found a list. I'll look it up again and show it to you. Goti's question is, what is beacon chain? Yeah, so beacon chain is a parallel chain of Ethereum which is running right now on proof of stake. That is where all the testing is being done, and soon they will merge into each other. Beacon chain and Ethereum mainnet is set to merge with each other this month, and the moment that happens, Ethereum will move to proof of stake. Yeah, hope that's clear. Vishay says decentralization is like democracy. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I mean, in a democracy also, a few people stand for election and we choose from them, right? Are the identity of Bitcoin contributor people public? Yes, it is public. So in fact, I'd like to share with you, I'm part of a team which translates Bitcoin white paper into different languages. So currently I'm on a team which is translating it into Hindi. I'm not that level of a programmer that I can work on the Bitcoin core, but I work on the translation. So in fact, if some of you are interested in helping out, we are translating Bitcoin white paper into all languages of the world. So Hindi is one, I mean, you name a language is there. So if you want to be part of that, you can join up for that group and you can contribute. It's very easy. So it's an open source movement. Then there are a bunch of brilliant people who are good at coding. And then if you're good, I'm sure they figure out a way of getting you into the core group. I'm not that, so I really don't know how it works. Goti's question, if Amazon shut down, nodes are down. Yes, that's exactly what happens, which is why when you decentralize nodes, they should be on different providers. So some people running on laptops, some on AWS, some on DigitalOcean, different cloud providers. That's what you have to do. Yeah. Any other questions? All clear? So if we create a blockchain, Tushar's question, and then download the core on many different systems, it can be a bit centralized. Sir, I'm not sure what you mean by that. But yeah, if you do control a large number, so in fact, in proof of work blockchains, we have a concept called 51% attack. What does that mean? That you have 51% of the hashing power. And in that case, you may be able to compromise the blockchain. And that has happened in the past to Bitcoin SV and Bitcoin Diamond, I think. So yes, that kind of stuff can happen. But in a proof of stake blockchain, you don't need hash power. You need that many validation nodes to be yours. If we write code, we can create crypto. Yes, of course. So in fact, multi-chain, what I showed you, has its own code, which is, they have taken Bitcoin core and put an API layer. That's why I like it the best. But Ethereum has its own code. Every blockchain has its own code. You can go to GitHub and look at the code of all the blockchains. Solana, Polkadot, all the code is available. It's all open source. Arweave is a project which focuses on permanent storage by paying once. Yeah, it's a good one. So Arweave is a good one. But again, see, they say it is permanent. But nothing in the world is permanent. What if in future people stop running the nodes because it is not economically feasible? It goes down, right? Silicon Valley series, Abhay says to watch. Sure, I watched the first few seasons. It was pretty neat. But Abhay, did they talk about blockchain later? Because initially it was some compression software that they were building. But yeah, it was a good, nice, fun series. The comedy one, right? Abhay? Yeah. So, any other questions? Uh, what if seed node gets deleted? Can the blockchain owner control it again? So, seed node loses the relevance after the blockchain is created. We can then have multiple nodes, but please remember there is a difference between permissioned blockchain and permissionless. What I'm going to teach you is going to be permissioned because we are looking at corporate use cases and enterprise use cases. For permissionless, we are going to teach you Ethereum and Binance chain. But here we are going to do permission. So they are two very different. So in them, your question is answered differently. If it is a permissionless blockchain, there is no concept of seed node. But if it is permissioned, then there is concept. How ethers.js and web3.js are connected. So we are going to do that in a separate session. There are going to be lectures on blockchain API. At that time, Shino will be teaching you these specific libraries. Why people open source their code, which they made with so much effort? You know what? That's a very interesting question. And in fact, a lot of people ask me, why do I teach for free? Same reason here. It is not always that there is some hidden motive. We just like to do stuff. So the open source world has a lot of people who love to do what they're doing. So we all have our day jobs where we make money, and then we have our free time where we do stuff like this. So some people teach, some people write code and give it to the world for open source. That's how Linux was created. Well, it's just people who think differently. And in the past, I used to be a very active contributor to a lot of open source projects. So it's just because people like to do it. That's how it works. Uh, okay, I think that's more or less for now. What are the questions? So now on the Telegram group and LinkedIn, I'm going to put the link to this video and I'm going to put your homework. Please make sure you do the homework for the next session. And that's when we'll go into the second lesson of blockchain. Som says Telegram invite link has expired. Okay, don't worry. Give me about 2 hours. By about 9 o'clock, go and check on the LinkedIn group. I will update all the information there. Okay. Okay. And I'll put a vote out on the group whether you guys want more sessions on things like GitHub. If you do, we'll do something on that. Yeah. And Aditya says we can put a survey on what specialization to be covered. Yeah, sure. Definitely we can do all that. So in that Telegram group, I'll keep it open so all of you can also contribute and you can have a discussion there. Okay, bye-bye. Those of you who want to have the Hindi version of this session, we start at 8 o'clock. Bye.